All are valuable, but almost nobody was talking about oxygen. Not how much you breathe in, but whether your body can actually deliver it to your tissues and whether your cells can use it once it gets there.
Because when you're certain about something, you don't feel the need to be curious about it anymore because you feel like you know it all already. Because I live by a confused mind will always say no. Basically, it's like the Amazon package is ready to be delivered and it's not answering the door. See, the brain only makes up 2% of your body, but it uses 20% of the oxygen. If you have a leaky gut, you got a leaky brain. You got to fix both at the same time. So
Mm.
your body freaks out, creates more buses. See, now we got more buses that we can load those oxygen onto. I would say, um, believe it or not, your thoughts.
Welcome to the Hope Natural Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Erin Ellis, your host. On this show, we discuss all things health, hormones, and happiness with a little side of this thing called life. Today, I have Randall Chestnut on the show, and I want to tell you up front, this conversation is going to make you think about your health from an angle you have probably never considered before. Randall is an oxygen scientist, educator, and founder of O2 Pro Academy, where he trains clinicians, coaches, and health professionals in oxygen therapy, breathwork science, altitude training, and mitochondrial health. His zone of genius is taking something that sounds incredibly complicated, like how your cells actually produce energy at the molecular level, and making it land in about 60 seconds. Here is the pattern he kept noticing across the entire wellness world. Everyone is talking about supplements, nutrition, hormones, exercise. All are valuable, but almost nobody was talking about oxygen. Not how much you breathe in, but whether your body can actually deliver it to your tissues and whether your cells can use it once it gets there. That distinction is the upstream layer underneath everything else we chase. And for the women listening who have done the hormone work and still do not feel as well as they expected, this conversation may be the missing piece. Randall, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. That was a long dossier. I was like, I don't even know if I could live up to all of that.
I love it. Well, we'll dive in. You've said that oxygen is the one thing every other health tool depends on, and yet it is the one thing missing from most wellness conversations. How did you land on that as your lane, and what were you seeing that nobody else was talking about?
Wow, that's a great question, and that's the most common question I get. Because let me point out first off that I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to college for any of this. And the word scientist, when someone hears the word scientist, I think that word gets overused because you always think of somebody who got a degree in science. But really, what is science? All really science is somebody who's curious and they test their theory and they look for the facts and they search for that. So when we say the word scientist, that's what I'm kind of meaning. I don't have a degree in science, and there's a lot of people out there who deserve that title more than when we use it. So I just wanted to lay that out there. But I do read a lot. I read the same books that they read. I go to the same lectures that they go to, and I talk to the people who are way more in depth, people like you and Hormone deal. I don't profess to know everything. In fact, I think that it is an advantage when you don't look at yourself as so certain about anything. Because when you're certain about something, you don't feel the need to be curious about it anymore because you feel like you know it all already. So I think that if that's a good premise for us to start with me, because I don't want anybody to think when they listen to this podcast, and inevitably everybody has an opinion about functional medicine, and you go down the supplement rabbit hole. It's a never-ending black hole of information that everybody has an opinion on.
Oh, yeah,
So
for sure.
I want to lay that out there. And I don't want to say that I know everything about oxygen either, because that is another. I mean, you could spend years. I mean, you're
Oh,
in
yeah.
a naturopath. You learn something new every day, just like I do.
Yep. I don't know everything either.
But I do think that I grew up with a dad. If you don't mind, just to give you a little background to how I got here,
Yeah,
and it'll be useful
absolutely.
too. I grew up with a dad who was the type of person who's like, you figure it out. Just you need to do that before you can go outside and play. That was kind of my dad. It was like I was going to figure it out before I could, and then I go play. And as I got older, those tasks got more complicated. So I always, and then my dad fixed up cars. And I think that it was that way, that it was the knowledge of knowing how cars work that actually really made me, give me the ability to simplify complicated things because I live by a confused mind will always say no. And I mean that no, like they don't understand if because when you know something, different T3s and fours and mitochondria, you start throwing out autophagy and words they've never heard of. It's like they shut off because nobody likes to feel like they don't know something. So I try to simplify things and I think most people understand the basic of how a car works. And if you fix a problem in a car, you're always going to go to the battery. That's the first thing. Nothing in that car works at all without the battery. And in the body, it's you go down to the cellular level, and inside the cell, what is it? I mean, we all know what that is. It's the power plant. The mitochondria creates the ATP stuff. So I know that was a long way around the barn, but I did want to open with that part there because I think it's relevant to say, how I came to say all of that and
Yeah.
develop all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with the basics because I think most people assume breathing is breathing. So, what is
Hmm.
the difference between how much oxygen you take in and whether your body can actually deliver and use it at a cellular level? And why does that distinction matter so much?
All right. And also another great question because I think we're always taught, especially with yoga and breathing, you're always taught, breath work and for whatever reason, women naturally gravitate to like yoga and the breath work. So it's already built into them, but I don't think that most people understand actually what's happening. So it sounds like you're kind of familiar with it, but your audience is. And I'm going to use a term that they may never heard, but it's not very intimidating. It's called the Bohr effect. Basically, all that is saying how well your body tolerates CO2. So whenever we breathe in, we're breathing in oxygen and we're exhaling CO2. There's some other things mixed in there, but mainly it's CO2 exhaled. What makes CO2 so important is it's the mechanism that the body uses to release oxygen into the cell. See, we when we breathe in and we breathe out, we're breathing in the O2, and it comes through the down the pharynx, through the lungs, out the alveoli, through the arteries until the capillaries, and then it goes all the way to the capillaries are just one cell thick, and it's going to decide is it going to be delivered into that cell based on a trigger. There's lactic acid, heat, and CO2. Those are the main three. If any of those are off, it's not going to drop off all this. Basically, it's like the Amazon package is ready to be delivered, and it's not answering the door. So you're going to exhale it, and you're going to have a higher exhale of CO2. I don't know if that was a simple description of that. Did I answer your
No, that makes,
question?
yeah, that makes sense. I guess, like, how do you know, like, whether your body is delivering it? Like,
Yeah,
do
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, you can if you have equipment, you can at least know where your CO2 your end tidal is what they call it. They have a mechanism that you can measure it, but there is a free way you can do it, and people could go. You most likely are probably doing the Bolt score if you're not familiar with it. It's just where you take a last exhale and you hold your breath until you feel the urge to breathe. And what that's going to tell you is how well your body tolerates CO2. The
Mm,
the the
okay.
the, the shorter you have that urge, the less your body can tolerate CO2.
Tolerate
The
it.
higher, the longer you can, the more efficient your cells are. And that's it's obviously it's not uh, a scientific method. You can actually
Yeah.
measure it using a device if you happen to have one
Mm-hmm.
that you can actually measure it, and then you'll at least have a better idea on how much CO2 is in your exhale, which would make sense that if that's in your exhale, it's coming from the cellular level, so you'll be able to know is it in the cell as well.
Right. Okay. You talk about cellular oxygen deficiency as something that gets missed constantly. So, what does
Hmm.
that actually look like in a person's day-to-day experience, and why does it not show up on like standard labs?
Well, that's the funny thing is if you go in and they test your SpO2, that's just how much oxygen is riding the hemoglobin to your
That's
peripheral ends. That's the little
the little
finger
guy.
monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little finger guy. If you look at it, basically, it's telling you how much oxygen you have, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't tell you that delivery, which is what the CO2 was. That's going to be your delivery. It was actually dropped. The package was dropped off. All that in CSPO2 is saying, hey, you have oxygen there, but it doesn't. If it's not delivered, how useful is it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things and I think you talked about it on one of the episodes that I had listened to. You were talking about estradiol with women
Mm-hmm.
and creating estrogen, right? And you probably know that to build that estradiol, that enzyme. God, what is it? I just lost my train of thought. Aromatase.
Oh,
I'm sorry
I was
about that.
like, what do you? Yeah.
Aromatase, right? So it's going to help. That's going to be your. It takes three oxygen molecules, and you must have oxygen to create that estrogen. I know there's different types of estrogen, but they all are created that you need to have oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, and you create less estrogen, you can kind of fill in the gaps on that. What happens with a woman when she has less estrogen, depending on what phase she's in, luteal phase or
Mm-hmm.
follicular phase, and progesterone. That's why a woman's going to have good blood work. They're going to do the supplements. They're going to do
Mm-hmm.
all the things right. You're going to test it. I do like that you do go deeper. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when you are going deeper in knowing that right there, looking at that and looking past just what is their hematocrit or their iron and look at that, um, their ferritin levels.
Mm-hmm.
See, because that's the hemoglobin's riding on that molecule.
Mm-hmm.
Do you look at those, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
look at everything.
What I do want to ask you. So when you're looking at that, what are you looking for in that? Because I'm curious to know what you're looking when you're looking at the blood work and you're looking at their hormones and the
Mm-hmm.
estrogens and their progesterone, and you're talking about their different phases. What are you looking at?
Well, where they are and where they should be as far as, estrogen and progesterone ratio. I'm looking at their thyroid too, and also like their adrenal glands because it's all
Right,
connected. And then, if any of those are off, then I'm looking at the basic things like their vitamin D and their B and their red blood cells, their iron. I mean, that is all, playing effect in their general
right,
health too. So, like, if those are deficient, say they don't have, enough iron, then we're working on, all right, well, why do we not have iron? Do we need to get more food? Is it because we have heavy periods?
right,
That's impacting their thyroid. That's impacting, obviously oxygen. So,
right, right. I think that that's why people get dizzy. I mean,
yeah.
especially when they get a lot of blood loss and that hematocrit's low. It's not it doesn't have any oxygen carrying. The load can't be carried there because
Mhm.
their iron or their ferritin is actually low.
Mhm.
I think I wanted to make sure I was clear on that part with when the estradiol and then uses that enzyme that
Mhm.
aromatase that it's actually on both oxygen is on both sides of that. It actually is the building the raw material to build estrogen, but it's also on the other side the delivery. It triggers the nitric oxide delivery, which is the it causes the vessel to either widen or
Mhm.
shrink. So you definitely oxygen is going to play a big role in fatigue in that when you're especially dealing with females because they're going to have that
Yeah.
loss depending on where they are in the ovulatory phase. That's why they'll have that week. I think it's the week before where they're like, "Oh, I feel
Luteal.
perfect." Yeah, there you go. I feel really good. And then when that next phase, when progesterone, because it's going to be a respiratory stimulant, so it's going to cause them to overbreathe. See,
I didn't know
when you
that.
talk about with over breathing, we're supposed to breathe between 12 and 16 per minute. You can use this if there's 16 to 20, but anything above 16, they're over breathing. What over breathing means is they're they're breathing too deeply or they're breathing too many times and it's washing out their CO2 levels, which remember drops off the oxygen. Less oxygen in the estrogen. You're going to have that. You see how this cascades into, and you would never see that on a blood work. There's no way.
No.
I mean, I guess you could see it on the blood work if you did test for those different things and you knew how to read it. You would definitely see it.
Explain more about the progesterone. What did you just said progesterone causes you to
It's
overbreathe?
well, it does. Yes, it's a
So
stimulant.
after ovulation, that's when progesterone is at its peak because if you ovulate, you make progesterone. So is that why like our heart rates are a little bit higher usually
Yep.
and temperatures up
Yep.
too in the luteal
Yep. And
phase?
your body's, it knows it needs something. It
Yeah.
actually needing that oxygen but what happens is when you overbreathe, you're washing out the CO2. CO2 is dropping it off at the cellular level. You're going to be chronically fatigued. So easy way to do it. Here's some easy things you can do. Number one, you need to, and you probably know this, and people listening if they haven't, you need to learn to nasal breathe. It's very, our mouths were made for eating and our nose were made for
Was
breathing.
paid
So
for
that's the
breathing.
easy part. It's hard to do it when you're asleep.
Mouth
Now there's
tape.
people out there mouth tape. You can do the mouth tape. That some people that's a scary thing for them, especially there's so I don't always I don't say they should or shouldn't do it. That's somebody like you because you'll have the right questions to ask somebody because if they have a deviated septum, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things they're just not going to be able to do it. It's impossible to do it because their nasal capacity is off.
Right.
But you can do that if you want. Nasal breathing is going to be because it's the one place that nitric oxide is produced in your nasal cavity. Tongue tied today. I think I've over talked today. I just
Maybe
came
you're
from
over
a
breathing
meeting.
too.
Yeah, exactly. You do. Here, I will give you something. Here's something that you don't. Here's the for me, and this is just me reading a lot of research. One of the reasons that women have chronic fatigue is they ruminate. So and you talked about it in your podcast. See, the brain only makes up 2% of your body, but it uses 20% of the oxygen. Now, your liver and whenever you're metabolizing, it will only when you're metabolizing food, it will exceed that. But for the most part, your brain is going to be the consumer of all oxygen, and it only operates off of aerobic oxygen, which is and not anaerobic. It can't do it. That's why you lose oxygen to the brain, you pass out, and it doesn't take long to do that.
Yeah. Well,
So I would look at.
you spoke about nasal breathing like for someone to do right now. Are there, any other things that people can do to improve their oxygen utilization?
Yep, I would say. Well, first off, if it's totally free, I don't sell anything. It's totally 100% free. In fact, I give them a free class on the Bolt Score. They can go to myboltscore.com. Has a app. You click on it, and it walks you through how to determine what your Bolt Score is at that moment, and then what to do. And then there's a download that you get sent that'll give you a 7-day reset. And then if you want, you can even go deeper. There's like I think it's like an hour and a half maybe of teaching you exactly what the Bolt Score is and how valuable it is. It's very valuable to use for a
Okay.
woman to
What's
understand
your
that.
what's Tell us a little bit about like what's the range for the Bolt score? Is it
So
BOLT or V as in Victor?
BOLT score,
Okay.
yes. Bolt like a nut bolt.
Got it.
So anything below 20 is definitely right there metabolically something's going on. Someone like you will 99% chance somebody who knows how to read blood work would have already realized that. 'Cause if they're
Yeah,
metabolically
something's
screwed up that way, you're going to notice that in the blood work. But
huh.
you want to get it above 40. That's your goal, to get it above 40. And that, men, it's a lot easier to maintain it throughout. 'Cause we actually do have our cycles too. They're not the same, but they're a little different. But we do actually have those times where we go through it. Not as often as women, and we don't lose blood. So women are gonna have to pay attention a little bit more. I mean, I know yoga teaches breathing, but you do have to be careful. There's like Kundalini is going to teach you deep breaths,
Mm-hmm.
what Kundalini is really doing? It's kind of like Wim Hof. It's inducing hyperventilation, and that
Mm-hmm.
is not bad, and it's not good. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I know Wim Hof teaches it. And you're trying to get the cold exposure, and there's certain times that you would want to induce hyperventilation.
Mm-hmm.
For most women, though, I wouldn't recommend it, especially if they're over breathing, because all you're doing is now just forcing the nervous system to stay in sympathetic, which is the fight or flight. You're trying to get it to move over to the parasympathetic. Doing that is not going to, your body's immediately in rescue. I mean, that is why they're fatigued, because their body is in this endless loop of sympathetic. And then
Mm-hmm.
they're ruminating about it. And some
Mm-hmm.
people have, they eat during that phase. Your body's telling you something's going on and it doesn't know. Is it food? It doesn't know what. It's going to cause you to do all the wrong things, most
Mm-hmm.
likely. Chronic fatigue. And then at the end of the phase, when you get back to it, you look back and you go, what was it? I'm not a female. I'm just saying, I hear this all. And I grew up with two sisters, and I've seen different phases of them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit more about that rumination piece and
Hmm.
how, I mean, I think a lot of it is, yes, we do that, but as women, I don't think that we're very aware that we do it. So, how could someone become aware and bring that back to like oxygen, hormones, fatigue,
Right.
all of that?
Wow, that is a great question. I wish I could convince. I mean, I think that's like, trying to, you know, I don't, I wish I knew the answer. It's like, I think
Yeah.
you nailed it. It's like just being aware of it. And I think most women are aware that they do overthink things.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's anything they can stop themselves from doing, unfortunately. I think you can be
Yeah.
aware of it, and maybe you can, I mean, that's where men are blessed. And like when you say, "What are you thinking about?" We literally are not thinking about anything, and that's impossible. You're like, "That's impossible." It's like, no, it's really not.
Be more like men, I guess is the
Yeah.
answer, right?
Oh, I would
Don't
say
worry
that.
about stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's easier said than done. I think it
True.
can be done, but it's something that they can only do themselves. I don't think there's any. Someone can come to them and say, "Hey, stop doing." They go, "Oh, thank you for that," and I'll stop thinking about
Mm-hmm.
everything. I think awareness and maybe just trying to be present is going to probably help with that. It's like you can't do anything about what just happened 5 minutes ago
Yeah.
or 5 years ago, and you can, it's kind of like what was his Eckhart Tolle, like you live in psychological time, and then there's clock time. You can only live in clock time. Psychological time is all made up.
Right.
There's nothing we could do about 5 minutes ago when you and I start. There's nothing I could do to change that. It doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more that they are aware of that. I guess that's the only thing I can say. Now the breathing they can do something about, because it's one of the few autonomic systems. Blinking is one, and breathing and swallowing. You can stop yourself from blinking. Eventually, your body's going to take over, though. If you try to hold your eyes open long enough, it's going to say, "Okay, I'm done playing this game. We got to blink." Same with
Mm-hmm.
breathing. You're going to pass
Mm-hmm.
out, and your body's going to take over. But you can control your breathing patterns if you consciously think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just close your mouth and breathe,
Yeah.
breathe, and breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll take a while. Now
It's
there are
crazy
times
how
that you
we have to teach ourselves how to breathe or learn or relearn how to breathe, I guess.
right, isn't it? See, babies, they know. In
Yeah.
animals, they know. That's why you look at large animals or larger mammals, horses. You look at their nostrils. You know immediately, because I grew up. I would stay at my grandfather's farm. We knew if a cow was sick, if it was breathing through its mouth.
Huh.
They would, yeah. Dogs a little bit different because dogs will pant because they cool their
Yeah.
body down. So it's not necessarily but they will. You will notice phlegm coming out when they breathe out. If they didn't do any exercise and they're breathing out of their mouth, right there that they're sick,
Mm-hmm.
because they will. If you look at a dog, when they sleep, their mouth is shut. They don't hold their
Oh
mouth.
yeah.
Well, I used to have a basset hound. He did. The tongue was about 4 miles long. But I don't know if you have any pets.
No, I do. One's laying on my lap right now, sleeping, and her
Uh,
mouth is shut. So
okay.
yeah, yeah. No, they're little guys. I don't know. The other one ran away.
Yeah.
Um, what else do we need? What else would be relevant to speak about oxygen,
Well,
breath, and
well, I
hormones?
want to. It's like I bounced all over, and that's not your fault. That's my fault because you get
No,
excited and
it's
you
all
want to
good.
talk about everything. I think I want to back up just a little bit, if I could, and
Yep.
what you're familiar with neuron theory or neuronal. That's the cells in your brain, and all the
Mm-hmm.
pathways are using that neuron. See, though that needs three things. It needs oxygen, glucose, and stimulation. What you'll find, and what I found, and what led me to like, why is everybody leaving off oxygen when that's one of the most important? If any one of those three are off, that it won't your neuronal it won't optimize, it won't operate, it won't function optimally. That's what I was trying to say. What'll happen is you'll see people that have red light, they'll have PEMF, they'll have all the lasers. See, all this is just stimulation. I mean, you need it. And then you'll have people who go the next level, the functional medicine people. See, they'll look at their glucose. They understand that's the energy and all of that. But you'll look at those same people, they'll know all of that, but they won't have anything related to oxygen. They won't have a like a mito2, like a IHHT or a hyperbaric, because both of those do different things, and they won't do any address any oxygen at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we've talked about. We've just talked about the simple stuff, right? It can definitely go down in a rabbit hole with oxygen, just with the estrogen alone.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about brain fog and all of that type of stuff, see, you got to address all three of those. If you don't,
Yeah.
and you got to address all three at the same time. It's kind of like if you have a leaky gut, you got a leaky brain. You got to fix both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
If one is off, it's going to resync the other one, and that's why they'll have these people is like, I've been doing all of this, but did you address the whole? See,
Yeah.
back to what I was saying. I know I said it earlier, but I want to say it again a different way. There's a holist and a reductionist. See, and for traditional medicine, and I'm not saying all traditional medicine is the same. I'm generalizing. They're going to reduce it down to a pill. See, that insurance is only going to cover with that pill. See, they're going to reduce your symptom down to a pill and they're going to give you a pill. See, that's
Mm-hmm.
reductionist thinking.
Mm-hmm.
See, chiropractic, and I'm not saying all chiropractic, see, they're going to reduce it down to the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And then functional medicine, and I'm not saying all. See, I'm just breaking it out because all of those people do also look at it the whole too. Not everybody's
Mm-hmm.
the same. I'm just generalizing. And you've probably seen it in your practice, people who went to traditional
Mm-hmm.
medicine and they didn't even look at the obvious that you've seen in 5 seconds when they handed you the blood work.
Yeah.
So you have to, functional medicine, see, they're going to reduce it down to a supplementations, and then maybe they'll look at the hormones too. But see, they're not
Mm-hmm.
addressing are they putting them on oxygen? Are they addressing the leaky gut? Are they addressing the physical mechanism? Because you got to address that too. I'm making sense
Speaking,
here.
yeah,
Am I
no,
talking in circles?
I just thought of a random question. You know those what are your thoughts on those oxygen bars?
Was you talking about the nasal cannulets?
Yeah, like in
Um,
Vegas.
yeah, I would say it's a nice gimmick.
There
And,
is
and I'll,
there is someone I follow that has like her own oxygen something or other. It's like a social media girl and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I
let,
mean,
let's redo this. Let's do this from what we've learned, and then you can tell me.
yeah.
Okay. So look at the SpO2. Let's say that we went to the oxygen bar before we put that on our nose. We put that SpO2 on our finger, and it said our oxygen saturation was 98. What that is telling us is that look at it, the buses. Remember where the Amazon trucks are going to deliver these
Mhm.
cells, and let's say that every one of those buses. See, a hemoglobin can carry 4 oxygen molecules. That's it to the peripheral end. That's all they can carry. So right there, it's saying we got 98, but all the seats are already filled. You're
Mhm.
going to put the cannula on, and what are you going to get out of it? All the seats are already filled. See, they're giving you more O2 when the drop off is the CO2. See, we already got
Mhm.
plenty of O2 right there. Now, when you look at something like the MITO2, it's MITO2, because I did consulting with them, and I understand that machine fairly well. See, you're doing a hypoxic state, that hormesis, when you do something that the
Okay.
biological phenomenon, when you do something in small doses, that it's healthy for you. So what an
Mm-hmm.
IHHT machine is doing is it's forcing your body to go in a hypoxic state. What happens
Mm.
is your body freaks out, and it activates what's called a HEF1 alpha, and that's a fancy term. It's just what happens is when that does it, it tells your kidneys to produce the hormone that tells your bone marrow to create more EPO or epoetin, which tells the red blood cells that we need more red blood cells, and more red blood cells have hemoglobin in them. So
Mm.
your body freaks out, creates more buses. See, now we got more buses that we can load those oxygen onto. Keeps you in that state for long enough, and then it changes over to high O2. Now you have more hemoglobin to load those buses up, and then carry it to the peripheral end. And it does that. It'll go low and then high, low and then
Hmm.
high. It has different cycles. So when you
Yeah.
look at it that way and you say, okay, well, I'm putting that cannula on, it's actually doing worse. It's not doing better.
Yeah.
Same
I was
thing
gonna
with the
say it's
oxygen
making you
bottles.
overbreathe,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, interesting. I'm
So when
learning.
you're even, you think about it, when you're at the hospital, see, they have to do that to cover their bases. There are
Yeah.
situations where that is. I don't want to say that every case is different. I mean, you got people with COPD and things like that. See, now that's a different mechanism.
Right.
It is not even making it to the cell properly.
Right.
That's a lung, and all of the mechanism that's not working properly there. So that's why they put that there.
Right. Medically,
But
anyway.
going to a bar, no. If you think about when the difference between a hyperbaric and what I just named IHHT, it stands for intermittent hypoxic hyperoxic training. That's what that IHHT. It's like altitude simulation. That's what it's doing.
Mm.
Because the higher the
Okay.
altitude, the barometric pressure is going to be reduced.
Okay.
So what happens when you go into if I'm saying something you already know, I'm just confirming it. So when you get in the hyperbaric chamber, see, it's just infusing the oxygen into the plasma, so it bypasses that CO2 process. It's just infusing it in there. But when you get out of that hyperbaric chamber, your body goes back to doing what it was doing before.
Yeah.
Now, when you're doing wound healing and those type of things, that's what you want to do. That if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking to improve the efficiency of how your body utilizes the oxygen, IHHT is what you want to do. It's training your cell to
Yeah.
use oxygen properly. So
Love
when you
that.
talk, so do you have red light therapy? I'm sure you're familiar with red light therapy.
Yeah, I have red light in my sauna and I have a handheld one.
Okay, good. So because mitochondria gets tossed around by the red light, they get tossed around by the PEMF. You're familiar with PEMF. And then of course the oxygen side. But they all treat the mitochondria a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
If I could simplify it, I would say red light is it is the charger. The
Mm-hmm.
PEMF is going to tune that cell to receive that better. I'm simplifying this, of course, and then the
I love it.
oxygen is going to train the cell. If you have all three of those, you're going to have a much better result. The oxygen is being trained to deliver properly.
Mm-hmm.
Your PEMF is tuning what while you're charging, because all this you can do that for free. You can go out in the sun and get in your red light. Now it's not going to be as because when you come and you do red light at your clinic, it's going to be delivered a lot better. Its
Yeah.
intensity is going to be a lot better. You control it better. You can't control the intensity of the sun.
Well, Randall, this has been awesome. We could probably chat for a long more
We could
time about
probably.
oxygen, even though it's such a simple little molecule, but it's so important. But we'll wrap it up with one question I ask all my guests. What would be your best or favorite health tip that you could share with the audience?
Wow, ooh, man, I wish I would have known that was coming ahead of time because there's so many. I would say, um, believe it or not, your thoughts.
Hmm,
I would say be mindful of what you think about negatively and get
I
involved
love
in.
that.
Like, like the news and all of those
Yeah.
and social media is going to make you, and it'll make sense if you really, and you could take it from here, but if you just think about what happens when you get angry, What is your, what
Yeah.
hormones and what, see, that cortisol and all those
We're
type of things.
ruminating.
Very well. It could cause that too, and it causes anger. I mean, you see something on, you start thinking about it. Because
Yep.
we've all been in an argument with somebody, maybe a parent, a loved one, or a husband or wife, and we knew at the moment we didn't realize we were wrong, and then we thought about it and we go, God, I wish I wouldn't have said that, but it's too late.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Great advice. I don't think I've heard that one. And we've done over, 230 episodes now. I don't think I've heard that one. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, you're
Well,
welcome.
it's been a great conversation. I'm sure everyone learned something. I really appreciate your time being on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And just before we close, remember they can go to myboltscore.com. It's totally free. I don't get I don't do I don't I'm not trying to sell anything. It's just free.
We'll make sure we have that included in the show notes and all of Randall's information. And that is a wrap, everyone, for this week. We'll see you all again next week. Take care.